this.
Good evening and welcome to a Press Pros Huddle show. I'm Bruce Hooley. That other gentleman is Lyle Sonny Fulks, coming to you from Columbus and Covington, Ohio. We'll be joined very shortly by new Bremen head basketball coach Cory Stephens. We're glad to have you all along with us tonight as we talk MAC basketball, Buckeye basketball, and ta-da! Bengals in the Super Bowl. Who day, Sonny? Who day?
Not me day. I was kind of surprised by it. I would say that took a lot of people.
It took a lot of people by storm. See, he expressed his doubt about the Cincinnati Bengals, and the internet gods reached out and plucked him right off of our screen. He's going to have to pedal faster, folks, because tonight, leading up to the show, we have had multiple occasions where Mr. Fulks has popped in and popped out. And now he pops back in. And there you were, doubting Joe Burrow and the genius of an organization led by Mike Brown. And the internet fairies out there said, no, we will not hear of that tonight.
Well, I was saying before I got bumped off there a minute ago, nobody's more surprised that they've come this far than me. I'm a big Joe Burrow admirer. But honestly, did I see this coming? No. Did it surprise me? No, because nothing in professional sports really surprises me anymore. And do I think the Bengals have enough to go on and win come 2 weeks and against the Rams? Who would bet against them at this point?
I certainly hope they do. They'd never won a road playoff game in their history. They won at the top-seeded Titans. They won at the seemingly unbeatable Kansas City Chiefs. They held the Chiefs to 3 points in the second half yesterday after holding them to 3 points in the second half at Paul Brown Stadium a few weeks ago on the next to last game of the regular season when they clinched the AFC North Championship. So they feel like a team of destiny to me, Sonny, and Joe Burrow is definitely a quarterback of destiny. The Browns were hoping they'd get a transformative quarterback in Baker Mayfield. The Bengals definitely got one. The first quarterback in NFL history to be drafted number 1 overall and lead his team at the Super Bowl in his second season. And he didn't even get a full first season. So pretty amazing story by Joe Burrow.
Well, I said a moment ago, nothing surprises me anymore. And I wish I felt better about I wish I felt better about the Bengals, but I watched out there yesterday and I see too many missed tackles. I thought their line got in the first half, just their interior lines were awful. They couldn't block the run game. They certainly couldn't get any pressure on Joe Burrow. And then explain to me, when you're up 21-3 like they are, and then suddenly playing as well as they did in the first half, like Kansas City did, how can you stink it up that bad in the second half? If that's a coaching correction, they need to sell that in aspirin bottles, because I guarantee you every high school and college coach in America would have that in their bag. So it's hard to explain how they can be that feckless in the first half and yet come on and play like world beaters in the second half.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes was off in the second half. It looked to me like he missed a lot of receivers. The Bengals got a little confidence. The Chiefs started clock watching, and the Bengals believe. They believe in their quarterback. They believe in something. And then a couple guys made big plays. Sam Hubbard made a big play to sack Patrick Mahomes. Von Bell made a big interception. Joe Mixon got the ball rolling on the ground, and T. Higgins stepped in when they were double covering Jamar Chase. So nice effort by the Bengals. And if you guys have not already read the story about Joe Burrow's final high school game, Sonny, that might be the last big game he ever lost. He's won every big game he's played since then. And he lost that one in the Division IV state championship game.
I want to ask you something, and I know this will upset a lot of people who are dyed-in-the-wool Browns fans, Bengals fans, NFL fans. Doesn't it make you wonder about the legitimacy of the NFL? Because there is hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars bet on that game yesterday.
Yeah.
And when it's 21-3 and it looks as bad as it does in one half, and yet they come storming back in the second half and look like that, I can't get it out of my mind knowing that there's that much money at stake that it's I don't know. It just runs through my mind. Is this really on the up and up? And if it is, who cares about Pete Rose, right?
Well, when I was a little kid, I remember watching my Cleveland Browns get beat in the NFL championship game by the Minnesota Vikings, who they had beat during the regular season. The year after, they had beaten the Baltimore Colts during the regular season and then also lost.
Yes, sir. I remember.
Game. And I was a little wee lad, and the game was ending, and on the screen it said, directed by and produced by. And I turned to my brother and I said, that's not fair. Why won't they ever let the Browns win? If that's produced by somebody and directed by somebody, just like the Honeymooners, why don't they ever script the Browns in the Super Bowl? And here we are, Sonny, 50-some years later, and I'm still waiting for him to script my Browns into the Super Bowl.
Well, you may have the long wait yet. But I do remember that 64 team, and, they made such a 64 game, and they made such a big deal about how good the Colts were with Ray Berry and Unitas and Bobby Boyd and Curtis are the all-pro linebackers. They just had one all-pro after another. They were better than the Browns at every position except one, and that was Jimmy Brown playing fullback. And yet the Browns come out, and somehow Frank Ryan has this miraculous day at quarterback. Gary Collins can do nothing wrong, catches 3 touchdowns. Even Luke Groza had a good day, and they win 27-0. And,
it's been all downhill since then.
All downhill since then.
Yes. We are very old to remember that game. I don't remember the 64 game. Sonny does. We are glad to be with you tonight. We're going to be joined by Cory Stephens, the new Bremen head basketball coach, very, very shortly. You can pipe in with a comment or a question on Facebook. Justin's already done that. He says, number one, Botkins, that Firelawn game is tomorrow. They moved the game up due to the weather this coming Friday. Interesting. I wonder if they'll do the same to New Bremen and Marion Local. And Debbie is always faithful to join us from Albany, Georgia. Thank you, Debbie. We appreciate you.
Hey, Debbie.
Very, very much. Okay, so you saw the big upset Friday night. New Bremen got the W over number one ranked Versailles, 61-58. Cardinals won it with David Homan on the bench in the overtime period with having been eliminated with fouls. New Bremen, sneaky good, Sonny. Sneaky good.
They are sneaky good. They play hard. They compete as hard as anybody that you'll ever see. They're not the most talented team, and yet they're talented from the standpoint of their kids come out and really believe in each other. Every one of their kids that you talk to, David Holman, Nate Rendler, Reese Bussey, all those kids pay tribute to their teammates. When David Holman fouled out with 2 minutes left in the first overtime, I said, did you get this queasy feeling when you went and sat on the bench? He said, no. He said, I really believed that my teammates could come back and could do it, could hold on and win. And he said, that's the way we believe, and that's the way they played. The funny thing about the outcome of that game, they missed 15 free throws for the night. And when you leave 15 points at the free throw line in a double overtime game, you almost never win. And on that particular night, it must have shrunk when everybody was standing at 15 feet because Versailles had their issues with making some free throws too. In fact, both teams could have closed that game out in regulation had they probably made more free throws. But it didn't work out that way, and that's why they played the game. And all creds in the world to Cory Stephens and the Cardinals, and he'll be on here in a minute, to have the mental fortitude just to continue. When you lose your best player, he goes to the bench, and somebody else like Reese Bussey steps up and hits a couple big plays for you, and you just continue on. That's hard to do, so credit to them.
No doubt about it. I wish the basketball Buckeyes had gotten the opportunity to hit a few free throws yesterday. They got a good old-fashioned homer job at Purdue, where their center is bigger than Paul Bunyan, and he's apparently the only big man in the history of basketball who officials are afraid to call a foul on, because he had 3 fouls in the game, which is a complete joke. Ohio State's big men had 14 fouls combined. Purdue shot 14 more free throws, had a 20-point lead. Ohio State came back, and Jaden Ivey threw in a 3 at the buzzer. You got to foul when you're tied with 25 seconds to go. Put their worst free throw shooter on the line. They threw it to Travion Williams on the inbounds. You got to foul. I want the ball to decide the game at the end on the road. I don't want Purdue to have the ball. They had the ball, and that was all she wrote for Ohio State. And they are back at it on Thursday night at home against the Iowa Hawkeyes. So there may be an officiating incident on Thursday night because crazy Fran McCaffrey will be in the building. But right now, in the building with us is New Bremen head basketball coach Cory Stephens, and we're glad to have you with us, Cory. We appreciate you coming on. If I can figure out how to arrange our picture here, we'll all have our own little square to talk. There we go. Hope you can hear us okay, Coach. Congratulations on a good season so far, and congratulations on a big win over Versailles last weekend.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what's been your secret this year, Coach? I look at your record, and I see you've won games by 3 over Jackson Center, 2 over Delphus, 1 over Russia, and 3 over Versailles. Close games don't seem to bother you.
No, we keep grinding after it. The Versailles game, we had a lead early, and then they kind of kept fighting back, and we just threw a run together late, and that's what kind of helped. Same thing with the Versailles game and the Jackson game and the Russia game.
Cory, one of the things that I find interesting about your basketball team, you must be the most anonymous 13 or 14-3 team in Ohio this year, because I just said a moment ago, nobody has impressed me more about how hard they play and how hard they compete than what the Cardinals have been this year. And yet you don't get a lot of publicity. You don't get a lot of talk, a lot of creds. You don't hear a lot of people talking about you the way they do Tri-Village and the way they do about Versailles and some of the other teams in the area. And I think that's a great testament to what your kids are made of, just to say, hey, you know what? You can ignore us all you want. We're going to play.
Yeah, it just goes back to control what you can control, and we can control our attitude and effort, and that's what we got to do to every night. So we just got to focus on us, and the big picture will take care of itself.
Coach, as you look forward to Friday night, you got a big weekend. I mean, Friday night you've got Marion local on the road. Then Saturday you're going to play Highland, and Highland is one of the basketball royalty programs in the state of Ohio, and I assume you're getting them somewhere up in Northeast Ohio, the Smithville Showcase. Tell me, first of all, let's talk a little bit about Marion local. We'll be there, and we'd be there whether it was football or basketball, and sometimes the lines are a little bit blurred, whether it is football or basketball in the MAC.
Yeah, I mean, we got a tough one Friday. Coach Guttermiller and his staff, they do a great job of getting their kids prepared, and we got to go there, so that's always a tough place to play. So that's our focus right now is taking care of Marion and kind of what they present, with their size and their athleticism and skill.
I just mentioned a moment ago, and I don't know that I remember a team, and you and I talked about this in your office in the postgame the other night. It isn't very often that you miss 50% of the free throw attempts that you have in a game and win a game in double overtime, which again, it speaks to the fact of how hard you play, in the half court the other night, because there wasn't a whole lot of transition basketball. I mean, that was a slugfest, in the half court. Both teams, tough to get to the rim, hit some big shots, just enough threes to kind of keep each other honest. But yet, and as I said, you could have won that game at the free throw line, but you couldn't and didn't, and yet found a way to win.
Yeah, I mean, our kids just kept grinding through it. I mean, we were 4 of 20 from the 3-point line, and that's pretty low compared to what we usually shoot. And we always tell them if it's in rhythm from the outside, you got to let it fly. And then your outside game, when you start hitting shots, it'll open up the inside game type deal and open up driving lanes. So, they just found a way at the end, to get some stops when we needed to. And I thought we did a good job at when we needed to work for a great shot. We were a little bit more patient on offense and kind of worked from a good shot to a great shot late in the game.
And something else I want to pay a compliment to you and your fan base up there, because, Bruce, that was as good an atmosphere and environment for high school basketball as I've seen in years. I suppose your gym seats close to 1,800. It was packed. And, those people were wonderful on both sides.
Yeah, it was a great environment for the kids. After last year not really having big crowds, it was great to have the fan base back, and there was a lot of excitement, and the energy was, in the air from the fans, and that was huge for us too.
Cory Stephens, the head coach at New Bremen, is our guest. They are having a really good year, just 3 losses so far. They play Marion Local on Friday and Highland on Saturday. Cory, take me through a little bit of your basketball influences, maybe where you played in high school, if you played in college, why did you get into basketball coaching, and what was it that attracted you to the sport?
Well, I played growing up. I went to Lima Bath. That's where I graduated from. Played football, basketball, and baseball. Played all of them, growing up from a young age. And then in college, I ended up going to the baseball route. I played at Bluffton, and then, started teaching at Perry, and then got into basketball. I was coaching football, basketball, and baseball. Even when I came here, I was coaching all 3. But the thing I really like about basketball is I tell them as I get older, I don't like the weather outside. I mean, I can control my own environment, so I don't have to worry about the rain, snow, or anything like that. And then I like the X's and O's and the scouting that goes into basketball. Now that's a lot more time, but that's what I really enjoy, being able to work with the X's and O's a little bit with them. And then, the skill development, working on, just making shots and worrying about us type deal.
The thing that's impressed me about the New Bremen community and so many of the MAC communities, all the MAC communities really, is how you guys share athletes. Some schools share them grudgingly. I don't see any grudging, allowance of one coach having a kid, to do multiple sports. A lot of schools, they frown on that. And you have to deal with the fact that a lot of your really good players are key members of Chris Schmidt's football team and state champions, 2 years ago, and then a really good year this past year, which I'm sure delays you. And I don't know, does it hurt you in your summer program, or have you just come to peace with that and that, hey, this is something I have to do to coach at this school?
Well, it helped when I first came to New Bremen. I was on Coach Schmidt's staff, so I have that prior relationship with him. I was on Coach Wells' staff here for baseball as well. And so I've seen the kids in all sports. And then in the weight room, I go to the weight room with the football team because I tell the basketball team, since they're the same kids, I'm going to be there anyways. I go to every football game for them. I ended up filming this past season for Coach Schmidt. So I like seeing them, in their different environments too. And then I tell them, we'll talk basketball once football season's done. That's where their emphasis needs to be. And then with the sharing athletes, we got one of our athletes, he's bowling as well right now. So that was one, I tell him it'll work as long as we communicate. So, he's been communicating really well with me. The bowling coach has communicated well with me. And, it seems to work for everyone. And it lets the kids be kids and lets them play their sports type deal.
You mentioned Nick Allig, who bowls as well as plays guard for you, and was a fine player on the football team, plays baseball. It's very unusual to see somebody anymore that's good in 2 sports, because it takes quite a bit of commitment and time, but he's good in 3 and good in 4. And, we had a piece on him on Press Pros here about a month ago, and he shared with me all the things he does in the community outside of school. I don't know when Nick Allig gets a chance to sleep.
Yeah, we got a lot of kids like that play multiple sports, that excel in multiple sports. They excel in the classroom as well. And then a lot of our kids, have outside jobs within the community. Maybe it's a day or 2 a week, but still just that responsibility and that hard work ethic that it takes to, balance everything and to excel in all aspects.
Cory, last thing for
me. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this too, Cory. Would you bowl Nick Allig for your paycheck?
Oh, no. Unless I have the bumpers up and he doesn't. But still, even then, I don't know. I always ask him on Saturday mornings or Saturday afternoons when he comes in after the walkthrough or for our walkthrough, hey, how'd you bowl today? And he's raffling off all these numbers, and it sounds good to me. And he's like, oh, it's not that good. I'm like, it's better than what I can do. So I don't know about that.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Cory, I cover Ohio State for us, and I know that Chris Holtman's offered Austin Parks, a young man you played against. You lost to St. Mary's 58-57. Give our Ohio State fans who are hopeful that Austin Parks ends up in Columbus, tell us what you think about him. He's not a senior. He's got another year to play, but what do you like about Austin Parks?
Well, I'm a Michigan fan, so but no, he's a real nice player, and he's tough to defend. And he from his sophomore year to his junior year, he made a huge stride. I felt like he really got in the weight room and expanded his game a little bit, and he expanded his range a little bit. And like I said, he's an all-around He has nice touch around the rim, and then he's big and physical and strong. So that's hard to guard at times.
Well, we appreciate your time tonight.
If he were to,
and Sonny, you got something left for Coach Stephens?
I was just going to say, if he decided he wanted to transfer districts into New Bremen, you would probably wouldn't care if he went to Michigan or Ohio State, would you?
Well, I tell the kids, because they always ask about my kids, hey, if Ohio State offered your kid, would you let him go? Hey, if you can get college paid for, by all means, go wherever that might be, and that's a good fit for you. Go explore that opportunity.
Attaboy.
Well, Coach, thanks for your time tonight. Good luck, the rest of the season, and congratulations on that big win last weekend.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
All right, Cory, thank you so much for your time.
Head coach, New Bremen High School. The Cardinals are rolling, and they will be a handful for Marion Local at home on Friday night, for Highland on Saturday night, for anybody that plays them the rest of the year. Sonny, you've seen them. Would you characterize them? I mean, they win the game without David Homan in the lineup because he fouled out. Are they a deep team?
Well, I would characterize New Bremen as a team that is one that you wouldn't want to play in the tournament. Again, I say this: Cory Stephens is a very intense competitor, and his team reflects his personality and his preparation and his commitment. You have people, we've shared about people who write into us and say, hey, is it really that necessary to win? And why can't you just let the kids enjoy and play the game just for the fun of playing the game? Well, you don't get that when you play teams like Marion Local or teams like Versailles, teams like New Bremen, Minster. Those teams out of this area over here, they're not wired that way. They come out of the home competing. It doesn't matter what it is. And Cory really, his kids reflect that so well the other night, because when you lose your best player in overtime and you've got to go to a second overtime and you're in foul trouble and both teams are in the double bonus at the line, there's just lots of ways to lose that game, and they refused to lose the other night. Again, I say when you hit 15 of 30 from the free throw line, and you have to refuse to lose to be able to win. And they're 13-3 or 14-3 or whatever the record is. They're a team, I would characterize as I don't want any part of them in the postseason tournament.
All right, Mr. Fulks, you have at the ready some of our correspondence from our readers. We will share those, and we will take more of your comments on Facebook and online, and then we will bid adieu because I have a birthday party to get to. My middle daughter is sweet 16 tonight, so
all right,
we're going to keep this one a little bit brief.
Okay. Again, as I always say, we really appreciate people who write, and there's just dozens of people every week who write to us and with questions, or why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you, how do you decide what games you're going to go to? And from Judy, who wrote this week, and just in fact, today, I think you miss a lot of deserving kids for your Who's Hots page, she says. Apparently you only get noticed if you're a top scorer in a game or your team wins. Can you explain how you pick the Who's Hot honorees on that page on Press Pros? Well, Judy, I hate to do it on hearsay. It usually is somebody that we see. If Bruce goes to a game and he said, hey, I saw a kid light it up the other night, and he really impressed me with his offense, his defense, his competitive desire, his personality on the court, all these kind of things that make for a great night, like our guy had this week from Versailles, Jaden Litton.
Yeah.
14 points the other night in just a desperate struggle to win that game in double overtime against New Bremen. Then he comes right back the next night, and that's got to be a devastating loss because that's their first loss of the year. They're the number one team in Division III in the state of Ohio, and yet he comes right back the next night against another ranked team in Russia and scores 29 and doesn't miss a shot in the entire first half. He scores 16 in the first half, 13 in the second half, and 11 for 11 from the line. That's plenty enough. I didn't see anybody the last 2 or 3 weeks honestly, that was any hotter or any better and any more deserving of the recognition than what Jaden Litton was. But usually it's going to be somebody we see in person. Do we know we miss people? Yeah, there's somebody out there every night who has a great night that gets unnoticed or doesn't get covered or gets covered in the manner maybe in which they deserve to be. And that's regrettable, but that has happened since Noah docked the ark. And it's going to continue for decades and eons probably. You just don't always get seen on the night when you have your best night. But if you play long enough and keep playing and keep plugging at it, eventually somebody's going to see. And I hope that explains, how we pick our Who's Hot honorees. Randy wrote in and said, caught your show last week when Sonny, that would be me, said the Tip City Red Devils were the best team he's seen. I don't agree with him, but how do they decide which team gets number one ranking in the state and so on? You want to speak to that, Bruce?
Well, it's a compilation of sports writers' rankings, and I don't think it's very scientific. It's a lot of hearsay, a lot of, honestly, Botkins benefited from the fact that last season they were the state champions, and Versailles kind of surprised me a little bit because they didn't have a super great year last year. They did win the state football, and they do have a lot of great athletes at that school. They've earned their way up there, but it's a little bit of a program reputation type thing. And then you can also open eyes with wins over teams that are well thought of throughout the state of Ohio or have a legacy name. If New Bremen were to beat Highland this Saturday night, that you might see New Bremen pop into the rankings after beating Versailles. So I wouldn't say that a team has to be ranked for you to think that they can win a state championship, because let's remember, Versailles was a 4 seed in its region in football. The Tigers were not ranked in the state football poll, and yet they proved the class of their division, and they beat the team in, why can't I think of the name? It starts with a K, Kirtland. They beat Kirtland that hadn't lost a game in 4 years. So ultimately it's decided on the field, and the rankings are just basically to get a little pub, get a little attention on the teams, which isn't a bad thing, but it's not necessarily accurate.
And Randy, if you go back to last week and play that again, I said, here are the 5 best teams I've seen.
Yeah.
And then I said, the reason I like Tip City is because they have 4 legitimate shooters on the court at all time. And their coach, Adam Toohey, is going to be a guest this week on Press Pros. And we'll get into that maybe a little bit more. But the teams that I mentioned last week, I stand by. Tip City is still the same team they were last week. They still got 4 kids that can shoot it. Versailles was my number 2 team. My number 3 team was Botkins. My number 4 team was Tri-Village. My number 5 team was the guy we just had on here a moment ago in New Bremen. And, I don't think anybody could – it'd be hard to find fault with any of those 5 teams, particularly here in the area. And, again, they're teams that I've personally seen. Finally, from Jenny. This one's right tailor-made for you, Mr. Ohio State beat writer.
Okay.
Jenny writes in and says, if Ohio State's good enough to beat Duke and Duke beat Gonzaga, why do the Buckeyes struggle like they do against average teams in the Big Ten? Da-da. Here you go, Bruce.
Well, my personal opinion of them is that they are not a tough-minded basketball team. Tough teams win on the road. They beat Duke at home. They had to go to overtime to beat Nebraska. They were not competitive against Indiana or Wisconsin. And for, the first 5 minutes of that second half yesterday at Purdue, they laid down, and that ended up beating them. I do not see in the Ohio State Buckeyes the consistent, tough-minded, persevere through adversity, relentless type of play that you have to win on the road in the Big Ten. And until I see that, I will always be a little bit skeptical about how they'll do in games where they don't have the comfort of their home fans rooting for them. And I think last season against Oral Roberts in Mackey Arena with no fans, that's a game they should win 100 times out of 100. And they didn't win it. A team should not need a lift from its home fans in order to reach its maximum potential. I know it frustrates Chris Holtman. But at this point in time, he's not found the magic combination or the magic words or whatever it is to get those guys to really perform on the road. They struggled on the road. They lost to Florida. They went to the finish against Seton Hall. They lost at Xavier. They are not a good road team. They have the talent. They have the depth. They have everything they need to be. They have the experience. They have everything they need to be a good road team. But at this point in time, they are not a good road team. And because they are not, you'll continue to see them struggle until they figure it out.
And to follow up on what you just said, I think that follows with just about every sport I can think of. That tough-mindedness, what we just talked about in terms of New Bremen and some of the MAC teams, Versailles and Marion Local and St. Henry and teams like that we see on a regular basis that are tough-minded, who can find a way to win a basketball or a football or a baseball game on a day when you don't hit pitch, you don't hit free throws, you fumble the ball 2 or 3 times, turn it over in football. Tough-mindedness is something that, Jenny, is an endangered species in the United States of America right now. We just don't insist that our kids are tough-minded about things as they grow up. We make too many excuses for ourselves as a culture, and this is what you get out of it sometimes is it's hard to explain why on a given night when everything's going well, Ohio State looks like they could beat the Golden State Warriors, and the next night against Sisters of the Poor, they may absolutely struggle. So it's the only explanation I have for why teams are so inconsistent in terms of their competitive values.
Agreed. I want to remind you guys that you have the opportunity to win every month a $50 gift card to Lehman's Old Time General Store. Lehman's is the exclusive sponsor of The Lowdown, presented by Lehman's, which you find on the front page of PressProsMagazine.com 3 to 4 times a week. We will post this show tomorrow, and we will soon be posting a first-person interview from our friends at Precision Strip in Minster. Precision Strip, a great friend of Press Pros Magazine, a great place for you to find a career if you don't have a career. So with that, I will remind you that our social channels are Instagram, Press Pros Magazine. And we'd love to have you, if you're going to a game, send us videos from the game. Can be a cheerleader group doing a cheer, can be a student section rooting for a big basket, can be anything that you think tells the story of the game. You guys are Instagram experts. You don't need me to tell you what to send. And send it to us on Instagram. And if we like it and it's framed well and it's shot well, we'll use it and we'll credit you for contributing to our Instagram feed. So follow us on Instagram, Press Pros Magazine. Follow us on Twitter at Press Pros Mag. You can also, of course, follow us on Facebook, Press Pros Magazine. And you can respond to our content via the Reader Speaks column. We'd love to hear from you. So with that, Sonny's internet appears to be waning. So I will bid you a pleasant good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. And remember to keep all your favorite teams top of mind and do so by following us on PressProsMagazine.com. Have a great evening.